All right, today's scripture will be from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 9 and 10. In the ESV reading, it reads, "Now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another, for that indeed is what you are doing to all the brothers throughout Macedonia. But we urge you, brothers, to do this more and more." Jordan, preach the word.
Well, first, I have to say thank you to the gentleman in AIM for coordinating with me this morning. Definitely helps. It's good to see you guys looking so slick. English. As for one this is my first and only language, it can be very confusing, it can be very annoying and frustrating. And I can only imagine what it's like to learn from someone who has never spoken it before. See, it's interesting that English has many influences for how we got it, from how we are today and how we speak it today. It began with Germanic beginnings, and we have Nordic, French, Latin, Greek, and even some Native American words. There are rules, like I before E except after C, but at the same time, those rules do not apply, because you have words like leisure, the E goes before the I. See, there are words that sound alike, but spelled differently and have different meanings. Like my personal favorites, there, and there. Well, you have they are, their food, and they're over there. Well, we use plurals to describe many things of one particular object or thing, like mice, mouse. But moose is the plural of moose. I don't understand why it's not meese. We have many different accents within our own country that can make English hard to learn. You have Texan, Californian, or the surfer dude, the New England accent where they refuse to use their R's and elongate their O's. I love you, brothers. And even within London, in the country where our language originated, they have tons of different accents going from the south to the north. It's crazy. See, and even words have changed meaning throughout our history, even so much within the last couple of decades. And one of those words is the main topic for today, is love. What did it used to mean for so long? It meant a love, or a deep affection and feeling towards someone else, your spouse, your family. But what does it become now and today? To describe something that you really, really, really like I love Star Wars, or I love pizza, or I love the New York Yankees. Ron? I mean, it has lost its purpose. It has lost its meaning in the world today. It's become so flippant. See, the last couple of weeks the last couple of days, we've been spending our time going through Paul's first letter to the Thessalonians. See, this is a group of very young Christians. And in the first half of this book, or the first half of this letter, Paul was beyond worried for them. Why? Because he felt he was only there for 3 weeks and felt he didn't impart enough information to them. So much, he felt so worried that he sent his friend Timothy to get a report. And then that's when he returns, that's when you see the shift in the letter. Paul is excited, he's ecstatic by how well these brethren are doing, how they are excelling in such a fallen world and a fallen city. And it switched from a letter from worry to elation and one of encouragement, to encourage them to keep doing what they're doing. See, what I want to talk about today, or the main point I want to make across today, is that we need here today, make it a priority to love our brethren, our brothers and sisters, no matter what, no matter how we feel. Even if we disagree with them. We need to understand the meaning behind brotherly love, how important it is, and yes, how an example we can be toward the world, because the world is watching us. Excuse me. The word love in today's term is sort of like, well, within the Greek, I should say, is an umbrella for different facets of that word. In the biblical Greek, we have, biblical Greek, we have four. Storge, which is that familial love between a parent and a child. Eros, that passionate love. Agape, this is the love that was talked about yesterday. To love your neighbor and love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. This is that sacrificial love. And then phileo, that is one that we have, the love between friends. Now, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 9, as it was read a minute ago, Paul writes, "Now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write to you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another." That, to me, is an encouraging statement. Paul was pleased by their current walk. Earlier in this chapter, he tells them to keep living as God has taught them to live, to walk as Paul and Silas taught them to walk, to abstain from all sorts of sins. Now, this word, while looking it up, is Philadelphia. It's a more proper noun form of the word phileo. And trying to find a good explanation for this, I found two. The love for brothers and sisters, or the love Christians should have for one another. See, this goes way beyond familial bonds. Paul was not worried. In fact, he was excited by the fact that they continued to live by this. As we saw in Corinthians, I mean, that whole issue, that whole book was about love. The Corinthians were not living that life as opposed to how the Thessalonians were living. They knew how to do this because of the love that they got from God, the love that they learned from God, that agape love. See, this reminds me of the story of Jonathan and David, their friendship. That is a deep love for each other. Come from two different lifestyles, two different families. One was a prince, the other a shepherd. And yet, they immediately took a liking to each other and even committed to each other, made a covenant to protect each other, to watch out for each other, even so much that Jonathan would become David's general, and David would love and protect Jonathan's family. It's just nuts, the kind of things that Jonathan did for David. Gave him clothing, armor, protected David from his psychotic dad, and saved him from 2 murder attempts. That, I'm not saying that we have to go out and save our friends from that sort of thing, but that type of dedication and that type of sacrifice is something that we need in our lives today. Secondly, you have the importance and what the Thessalonians did and the encouragement that Paul gave to them in verse 10. For that indeed is what you are doing to all the brothers throughout Macedonia, but we urge you, brothers, to do so more and more. That's interesting, though, that he said that they are doing this, that they haven't faltered. But the fact that the way that they were living with each other, the way that they loved each other, spread outside of the city of Thessalonica, and spread throughout the entire province of Macedonia. I mean, imagine the kind of things that they were doing for it to spread like that. We do have examples of this sort of sacrifice that they had for one another. In Acts 11, 27 and 30, we are told of what is going on in Jerusalem. Now, in these days, prophets came down from Jerusalem to Antioch, and one of them, named Agabus, stood up and foretold by the Spirit that there would be a great famine over all the world. This took place in the days of Claudius. So the disciples determined, everyone according to his ability, to send relief to the brothers living in Judea. They sacrificed all they had, as much as they had, to help in a time of need. That is how we should live our lives. On Monday, Jackson had talked about how Paul would do anything for the well-being of others. And one of those statements that he says, that love for others is one part of the foundation of our walk. I mean, how can we do this today, though, or a description of today? Helping a young woman and her family move, taking time out of your Saturday from important work, from doing your homework, doing work, whatever, and helping her move. Helping someone, bringing someone a meal when they're in the hospital or have just given birth. Taking time, taking your energy to help out your brother or sister. And this all leads to one thing that Paul continues in 11 and 12. And to inspire to live quietly, to mind your own affairs, and to work with your hands as we instructed you, so that you may walk properly before outsiders, independent on no one. Not only is he encouraging to continue to live as they should live, but to tell them that we are being watched. They're being watched. And Paul keeps reminding those he writes that he is an ambassador for Christ, that we are ambassadors for Christ, that we are representatives for Christ. And it takes more than just to love our neighbors. we also have to love each other. No matter what happens, no matter what we're going through or how we feel. COVID was a hard time for all of us, especially when it came, or the division it caused and the arguments it caused, whether you wanted to wear a mask or not, take the vaccine or not. I myself was angry at the fact that I had to wear a mask. But my very wise wife reminded me that you're not doing it for you, you're doing it for them. I sacrificed how I felt. We sacrificed how we felt so that we show our love for those who wanted to wear their masks, who we don't need to argue over silly things to cause division. Like politics, football teams, whatever it is. That is not how we show love with one another. James writes in his letter to be slow to speak and quick to hear. What does that mean? It means to listen to each other, to not get so angry so fast with each other if you disagree with them or not. I'm not saying we don't need to get angry. It's how we react to things is what is the problem. And it was interesting to me yesterday how that topic of love was brought up, that the Amers did an amazing job with that. And I'm going to leave you with this as not necessarily a guide, but as a call to you. In 1 Corinthians 13, we know that very well. But I'm going to apply it to us. Brothers and sisters, be patient and kind with each other. Do not be envious of them or boast. Do not be arrogant or rude toward them. Do not insist on your own way, or don't become irritable or resentful toward each other. Do not rejoice when they do wrong, but rejoice with them in truth. See, bear all things with them. Believe in them. Hope in them and endure with them. We have an amazing example with the Thessalonians. And no, I'm not coming before you telling you now that they had a perfect life, that they lived a perfect life. But the example that they set is an example for us and how we, as Christians today, should treat our brothers and sisters.